everybody. It is 2013. It is time for the first season of Codes. I am Wolf. With me is Caldor. This is the Up and Downs.
Yeah, things are looking really well this year. Very green, on the other hand. I'm actually casting with Kermit the Frog today.
Yeah, feels like a very green Christmas.
Yeah.
Or something into that
Oh,
effect.
actually, on camera, it looks like we have something grayish.
Yeah, actually, it looks much better on camera, I have to say.
Yeah, a little bit better. But guys, well, actually, this looks really green. So here, currently, a green sweater sponsored by GOMTV and a green tie from Kermit Entertainment. I don't know.
I feel like with this new outfit we've got, I've got all sorts of energy. I feel very plant-like. I feel like bright light that shines on me might help me photosynthesize.
It's the hope of a better year, and it's definitely going to be a great year. 2013 starts with an awesome lineup for the Up and Downs. The system changed a little bit.
Yes, we have a wild card group now, meaning that every player in your normal A through E groups that gets third place will actually put into that final group. So instead of having a seed for that spot, we're actually just going to have these players go into the wild card group and battle it out.
I love it.
I love it too, man. I'm really excited.
It's going to be so great. It's not only about getting one of the two spots in the group, the first and the second place, of course, advanced to Code S, as it has been in the last year, but the third place now has another chance. We have another group at the end of the Up and Downs where all the third place players will get another shot at Code S, and this is going to be so great. Think about all these times where we had a tie situation, where we had a tiebreaker, and suddenly one of these players wasn't able to get into Code S. Now all these guys that end up being on the third place, and most of the times they were like really strong players that deserve to go into Code S, they get another chance, and this group is going to be so stacked.
For example, this group, look at the players we got in here, some insane players.
It's crazy.
But if you are in a group like this, you're a bit unlucky because you have like the hardest players that you could potentially face in an up and down group. So then you have another chance if you can stick it out and get to third place. Let's take a look, of course, at our information here about the race distribution.
The Code S players this season, 9 Terrans, 9 Zerg player, and only 2 Protoss. But talking about those 2 Protoss players, they are crazy. They are the finalists of WCS Global Finals. We have Parting, who just left Team Startail. A lot of teams are currently participating in the bidding war for him. Everyone wants to have him on his roster, and of course, Crater Prime.
Yeah, Crater Prime, not someone to shake a stick at. You can see Stefano, very notably listed as one of our Zerg players. Of course, down there at the bottom, we have Baby as well. Just some notable players as well as Innovation. Of course, I am MVP, the only Terran in the Blizzard Cup. So a great stacked list of players. Protosses, though, there's a lot of Protosses in the Up and Downs, a lot of opportunities for Protosses to get and make that Protoss list a little bit wider.
Exactly. Talking about Protosses, today we have 3 of them. This is a 6-player group that we have, and we have YongHwa, we have MC, and we also have first of all, we have the distribution for the Up and Downs and the advance rate for the seasons.
You can see how many Terrans advanced versus Protosses, and look at Zergs actually being the highest percentage at 40.4, but it's not that much higher, you know, if you look at it compared to Terrans. Protosses, on the other hand, have been a little bit struggling to get to Code S.
And just talking about the Protoss, I already mentioned MC and YongHwa, of course, being 2 of the Protoss players in today's group, but of course we have Vampire as the 3rd Protoss player. We have also YoDa and Flash, the 2 Terrans, and Jaedong, the sole representative of the Zerg race.
I'm just looking at this. Look at how many Terrans were in the GSL in total for the whole year. That's 60, compared to, even though Zergs did really well at the end of the year, only 33 in total were able to be in Code S throughout the entire year. That's actually a really interesting stat.
Yeah, the statistics that we have are pretty awesome this year. We improved in the last season already on it, but now we have this. Well, you mentioned it a couple of times last season. We have one person that is dedicated to just find out new statistics about the players and their matches, and this will of course show in 2013 as well. Here we have today's group. This is Group A of the Up and Downs.
Yeah, you can see we've got YoDa, YongHwa, MC, Jaedong, Vampire, and Flash. You already listed them out, but we can say it again. You can see their beautiful faces. Look at the win rate of YongHwa. It's insane at 24-9. That's partially due to his all-killing.
And think about this group. It is crazy. We had YoDa last time doing so well in Code S. YongHwa, he double all-killed in the GSTL. There's MC, always a contender to get out of the Up and Downs. He was so strong in the past few games that we've seen of them. Then you have Jaedong and Flash, the 2 Boogwall players just transitioning over. Flash getting an all-kill in Pro League today against EGTL. This group is amazing. It's just so hard to predict who's coming out of the group and gets into Code S.
Yeah, it's just such a tough group to predict. With 6 players in this group and the caliber of the players, that's why that wildcard group really comes into play, because the 3rd place player is going to have, you know, another chance. Look at I think there's two players that really stick out in this group to me. It's YoDa and Vampire. Are they going to be able to actually prove themselves against this many top opponents? They both have below 50% win rate. I think they're the underdogs here.
Well, it's the silent ones that you always have to watch out for, and YoDa is definitely one of the more silent ones. He doesn't make a huge splash when he gives interviews, but when he's in the booth, then he can really prove himself, and that's what he did last season. He was able to get into the second round of Code S, and then he dropped out of the group, lost in Code A, and now he is here in the first match up against YongHwa in a Terran versus Protoss on Entombed Valley.
Yeah, this is going to be a sick match. This is just game number one. We've got so many games lined up for today, and this is just the first day of the GSL for 2013. We've got a whole year ahead of us, and I could not be more excited.
It's going to be great. It's going to be an amazing year. 2012 was awesome, but in 2013 we have the GSL once again starting now, and also, of course, Heart of the Swarm is something that we will have to deal with in 3 months.
I wanted to talk about that, but we can talk about that a little bit later, man. I've got so much to say about that, but first, before we do anything else, it's time for YoDa versus YongHwa, the battle of the Ys here. The IM players, the team kill, coming up first here at the GSL Up and Downs Outdoor Bowl.
It is 2013, it's time for the up and downs here at the GSL, and starting in our first match at the bottom left of Entombed Valley is our Terran player for LGIM. It is
LGIM YoDa.
Naming himself after a Star Wars character.
Did really well in the last Code S season, but then he dropped out in the second round and had to face Boom Boom in Code A, where he lost immediately. Took one map, but now he finds himself in the up and downs against a strong player, especially in the GSTL. Starting to the top left is the Protoss. It is
LGIM YongHwa.
And as always, in the up and downs, we always do things with the team kill to make sure that there's no funny situation later where players can collaborate. Not that that would ever happen, but it's impossible to do it if this is the case. This is how you start things off.
YongHwa in the last season in Code A, he had to face Life, which was of course really unfortunate for him in the third round, and which is exactly where he lost. Life advanced to Code S, and YongHwa has to play the up and downs here. So facing Life, of course, always a bit tough. If you haven't watched the Blizzard Cup VODs just yet, you might turn off the sound for a second, because, well, we're going to spoil it. It was an amazing series, wasn't it?
Absolutely, man. I could not have asked for more out of that tournament. By the way, an interesting scout here by YongHwa is going to check the minerals specifically. He's going to steal some. Looks like he may be planning to hide something. And he's actually facing a gas build from YoDa. This is so interesting. He's going to hide this probe. He wants to see the command center no matter what. So if the Marine comes down to the ramp to check, then he'll be able to get the probe and see the command center. But in fact, we are going to see a 2-Rax play out of YoDa. This is something that you do not see very often in Korea, but it's kind of making a little bit of a comeback.
Yeah, in this group, of course, you have best of ones. That means you can really prepare for your opponent, you can prepare specific maps, you can prepare specific strategies, which is really important. So at this point, YoDa definitely with an idea of how he can defeat YongHwa here. YongHwa had a double all-kill in the last GSTL season, and he was one of the main contenders. Then he played at the World Cyber Games 2012, but he already lost in the group, so he didn't really go that far. Everyone expected him to be in the semifinals, in the finals, maybe take the entire tournament, but he kind of fell off a little bit, a bit of the grid. So right now we have him in the up and downs. He wants to get into the Code S, and YoDa apparently has a very specific strategy of how to defeat this strong Protoss player.
Yeah, it looks like he doesn't really want to go for the macro approach first. He wants to go for 2 barracks. Now, what he doesn't know is that YongHwa already knows what he's up to, at least in part. He knows that there's no command center on the low ground. He doesn't know about the 2-Rax, but because of his probe, he was able to hide the probe, see that there was no command center. So at this point, YoDa makes the bunker trying to hide the fact that there's no command center, trying to keep that a secret. Second gas is going up, you see starting stem. This build is very much not all in. It's actually just a pressure build to try to force a cancel on a Protoss Nexus or even kill the Nexus and then start a command center afterwards.
And you know, you talked about it earlier. This is of course a team match. We have both players playing for LGIM. They know each other very well. They practice together, they live together, they discuss strategies. So in this particular scenario, it's very difficult for them to approach the game. There will be a lot of mind games of a player trying to switch up his usual strategy and show his opponent maybe something that he can't really place immediately. So at this point we have from both of these players. Not an expansion just yet, one base play, and YoDa currently just still scouting the middle of the map occupied by YongHwa, going into additional, well, the warp gate technology here, and now thinking about getting this expansion. Yeah, very safe though.
Doing it extremely safely. He knows something a little bit different is coming out of YoDa, and this is what you would expect normally in a team kill. Nice denial on the scout. Yes, he's not able to check for a nexus, but YongHwa is not cutting any corners with this build. He's got not only the robotics, but he has multiple gateways up at home. Just to be safe, he's going to be able to make sentries. He's already got 2 of them out. He can start warp gates now since his warp gate research is done.
The problem if you go for such a safe build is always when your opponent goes, for example, for double command center on the high ground. Then you are really, really far behind. Exactly. But in this case, YoDa is playing a one base play. Look how he positions his Marines, trying to intercept the Observer here. But he just misses it, and therefore no scan. The Observer gets into the main base, and this is all that YongHwa wanted.
Yeah, this is quite critical. And more importantly than seeing the double barracks, he's now seeing that there's even, it's not just your standard 2 racks in the command center. This is actually a siege tank build. You can see the tanks making, and that's really stressful.
The problem for YongHwa is, sorry, for YoDa more than that, is that he wanted to snipe this Observer. He has a bunker at the front, so he's trying to sell the idea to YongHwa, hey, I'm going into a normal expansion build. I have a command center on the low ground right now, and he tries to intercept the Observer as soon as possible. But then he just doesn't pay attention for just a short second, and suddenly the Observer's in the main base and reveals everything. So YongHwa knows exactly what he's up to. He has the units at the front. He knows exactly when YoDa's going to move out, and this is going to help him so much. And oh wow.
Dark Shrine on the production tab. This is a great way to deal with this type of build, because if you're using scans while you're attacking, suddenly your attack becomes so much weaker. And sometimes you see an attack like this without combat shields. It means the DT is with 1 hit each Marine, but in this case he is getting that combat shield upgrade.
And just think about it, if with only one command center, you usually don't save up a lot of energy. If you don't see this Dark Shrine, then you go in, you might have enough energy for 1 scan. But what YongHwa tries to do with this is not only do damage, but if there comes an attack and his Dark Shrine is ready, it's going to be so difficult for YoDa to actually take him down. And time is working in favor of YongHwa. He has 2 bases.
He's also got some Zealots ready for this drop. He could have potentially seen it with those Zealots. It's hard to say if he actually did, but he has some Zealots here, so this should be able to hold things off even as the Immortal rallied. So these Marines are going to have to at least go to the natural here.
And immediately the probe pull, very well done, not losing a lot here. He knows exactly what's up, and those Marines will not be able to take down the Nexus.
You're exactly right. And I'm a little bit surprised YongHwa does not keep his forward position outside the base. When you're facing a siege tank type push, you can siege up, you can force the tanks to siege up multiple times. It slows down the push, but he was much more concerned about the drop here, so he sent everything home. This pylon will be picked off. That's the best YoDa can make out of this, but YoDa is so much on a clock. You're exactly right when you say that time is really working in YongHwa's favor right now. The first DT has been warped in. It's running up towards that ramp, but there is a wall in place, and he should be able to easily scan and deflect it as soon as he has enough energy. We'll have to repair for a little bit.
Yeah, at this point he doesn't have the energy for a scan. He's trying to get his Raven out so that he has some detection on the map, but of course all these SCV now repairing the supply depot can't mine. That's a lot of mining time lost, and this DT is already paying off. YoDa is in a position where he's kind of forced to stay in his main base, and what can he do? He has to go for a push. There is no alternative. He can't just suddenly go into an expansion. It's way too late for that.
Absolutely, and with Charge finishing up here, YoDa is going to face an extremely difficult Protoss composition. He's going to have just one chance to make this work. He's going to have to go with the Raven. There's no drops here. There's no transition into a command center. None of those options are available to him. He's going to have to make this push work here and now, and he starts to move out. The DT sees it.
And you can really see that YongHwa thought about this quite a lot. He didn't over-probe. He has 33 probes right now against 25 SCVs. So this is not the best saturation that you can have on 2 bases, but it's more than enough to deal with what YoDa has. He has a good production. He has a better economy. He has the expansion saturating 2 mineral lines, and if this charge upgrade finishes and he gets more and more Immortals and also charge lots into the map, then suddenly with the Marine, Marauder and tank composition, that just doesn't work. No Marauders, by the way, in the mix, only of course Marine tanks.
Here come the SCVs. YoDa had to use a call down supply actually that saves him a little bit of minerals as well, but he missed the depot. The army supply very even here, just 64 to 60, slightly in favor of YoDa. With all those DTs, though, he's going to have to scan it, and he still only has that 1 commander. So if the Raven gets picked off in any way, just loses it, he's going to have to rely on scans only to be able to fight the DTs.
Very, very critical to keep the Raven alive, and now with all those SCVs, he has a bit of a shield for his army. Here comes the first Archon though, and this is of course great against the Marines if he gets close enough, and also against the SCVs. Here comes the army supply up again, 66 to 72 now in favor of YongHwa, and YongHwa is just waiting for this fight to happen. Here come the siege tanks trying to siege up.
Wow, such patience here from YongHwa. He goes double Guardian Shield, full coverage here. And Zealots is coming in from all sides.
He's trying to crush the forces of YoDa. YoDa microing his heart out of it. Those tanks are gone, but so many Marines.
Yeah, there's so many Marines now. Those Immortals are not so valuable anymore. The medevacs are still alive. And YoDa's got a very strong position. A few more charged Zealots coming here. The units are so low on hit points, but the damage output remains the same. And YoDa looks like he has done it. GG!
Wow,
That was
YoDa,
a close fight, man.
yeah. YoDa goes up the ramp, and YongHwa, he knew the entire time what was coming, but he was still not able to stop it. Too many Marines at the end of the fight are left. Even with another round of warp-ins, there was no chance for the Protoss player from LGIM to save his natural in his main base. Well played by YoDa, a very, very strong push by him.
Yeah, that was actually insanely well microed as well. Against the competition he was facing with the Guardian Shields, I feel like there was a moment of hesitation out of YongHwa where he could have maybe closed down those siege tanks, but he waited just a second, and that was too much.
Yeah. That was really, really well done by YoDa. I have to say that this was really something. I didn't expect him to do this well. We talked a bit about the DTs that he had in the mixture, about the lack of scans, but then the Raven made up for it. So very well played by YoDa here. He was scouted early on. This was what he was trying to avoid, but still he was able to make it happen. So well played and an early lead in this group.
Yeah. That's a tough loss for YongHwa. I mean, considering he had all the information, it seemed like he had all the right cards. He just couldn't deal with the damage output of raw Marines. The siege tanks targeted down those sentries. When the Guardian Shield is gone, then you just can't actually survive the damage output of that many Marines when you can't get the surface area.
And well, if you want to nag a little bit about the positioning, it was not perfect how he approached the last fight because he had to go over this small
that
abyssal thing.
Gap,
yeah, exactly, the gap. So a few of his zealots had to try to go through the side. So that was a bit off on timing, but still, it was very well played by YoDa, and it was not as much a mistake of YongHwa, but just YoDa playing this really well and getting into a really good position at the ramp too, and having, of course, always the coverage with the Raven, not even DTs, trying to get in there because he knew about the Raven, knew about the detection, went for the Archon. But yeah, in the last fights, just YoDa, a tiny little bit better than YongHwa. The teammates now played their match, and now it's time for our next game, which is going to be MC versus Jaedong, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you're right, man. This is going to be pretty intense. I feel like Jaedong, I would actually put him as the favorite here based on recent results and performances I've seen between these two players in this matchup. Jaedong has made Mutalisk work like no one's made Mutalisk work in like the last 6 months. He knows how to use them, and I'd be a little bit scared if I were MC about those Mutas.
The map is on Daybreak, and Daybreak is one of the maps... Wasn't that the last map where he faced Roro in Code A, where Roro played the strategy where he ran in with the Lings?
Yeah.
He was able to just...
Oh, that was so unfortunate for MC.
Yeah, it was really well played by Roro. In case you don't remember, guys, we had a situation where MC moved out with the Stalker and the Zealots towards the first tower, and Roro knew about this. He, I think, attacked with slow links and was just hiding them the entire time, not getting into the range of the tower at all. He knew about the scouting pattern of MC and that MC really loves to get those two units into the middle of the map. So he just bypassed them and ran in.
Exactly.
And that was all that she wrote. That was the game was over.
A total textbook example of how to read your opponent.
Yep.
Study that he always sends that Zealot and Stalker out to pressure a little bit, and just took the opportunity to go in before the sentry was out. There was a hole in the wall. If he had plugged the hole, still would have struggled to hold it, but in the end, the Lings just got in. There was nothing MC could do.
So MC now in the same matchup on the same map has to play in the GSL again. This time he's up against Jaedong. EGTL did not use Jaedong today when they played at Pro League.
Yeah, a very important thing to note because that can tire somebody out, but more important than that, I mean, when you talk about these programmers who play hours and hours a day, it's not about tiredness, really. It's about showing build orders. You don't want him to have to show his build, especially with the... We've now switched over to the GSL type format, so if Jaedong wins in Pro League, he has to show more and more strategies. It's not something you want to do.
And he didn't want to play Flash. This is one of the games that we have up later on. He wanted to save his build, of course. It's a different map, but still he wanted to save his build for exactly this occasion, for the GSL, for the up and downs. He wanted to play. I talked to him a little bit and he's like, yeah, I really wanted to play, but, well, it was already a little bit too late, and then we decided that it's better for me to just focus on the GSL now. Right now we have Daybreak coming up. It's MC versus Jaedong. This is going to be so great, Wolf.
Yeah, this is awesome, man. Look at MC's new SK jersey. He's rocking the blue. It's like blue, purple. It's almost indigo. I don't know what color that is, but it's new, it's different, and I like it. What color is that? Is that indigo?
I don't know. I would say blue.
Blue, yeah, I would go with blue. Blue is a safer bet in this case. It's like teal when you're playing StarCraft 1, you get random colors, you get teal, and everyone's like blue. It's like, well, which blue? You have to say teal, but in this case, I think blue is acceptable.
Whatever color it is, guys, we are getting ready for the second game at the GSL Up and Downs. It is MC versus Jaedong. Game 2 in Group A of the GSL Up and Downs with Talon Wolf.